that you have. So let's just check. Okay, so hopefully everything is going live now. Yeah. Okay, so just while we check if everything's working again, I want to know if you can hear me and if you can see me, because today we're going to be talking about an essay that one of our viewers actually submitted to us. So hopefully this is all working. See what's happening. So just while we're waiting for the stream to catch up, because what I'm saying and doing may be a little bit delayed, but you can see on the YouTube page we've got here on the channel, you can always go here, and we have plenty of videos all to do with writing and other parts of the speaking test. And what we're going to do today is talk about task 2. And so just while I'm doing a few checks here, just bear with me for a second. Okay. And am I live? There we go. Okay, so we're going to be talking about an essay, and if you want to find out what the essay is, you can actually jump to the document, the original document that we have, and if you look in the description of the video, you'll find a link to that Google Doc, and you can watch along and follow it from there. Okay, so okay, we're all live. Excellent. Okay, so hopefully things should be moving along now. We always have a few technical issues while we're trying to go live, but there we go. Perfect. It looks like everything's ready to go. Okay, so obviously you don't want to listen to me stalling for too long, but if we're all ready to go, don't forget you can leave some comments in the chat there, because Michael is going to be there talking to you, answering any questions, and if you want me to talk about anything, just leave a comment there. So this is an essay that was submitted by one of our viewers, Naz. So he wanted us to correct this, and that's what we're going to do. So this is a task 2 essay, and as you may know, there are different types of essays in IELTS, and each essay has a particular structure, and they're all graded in the same way. So if you were to click in any of our videos, you'll find information about, if I show you one of our videos. So if we go into a video, this is one of the old streams we had, you can find down here we have writing task 1, task 2 and speaking, and if you click on that, it will bring you to the publicly available band score descriptors for writing, task 1, task 2 and for speaking. So this is what I'm using to grade this essay. Okay, it tells you the 4 different criteria. If you don't know, you're marked on task response, which is how well did you answer the question, basically. Coherence and cohesion, how well did you link your ideas together, and is it easy to follow what you're saying, basically. Lexical resource, which is use of vocabulary, and then grammar. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Now let's get started. So you can find this essay. It's in that Google Doc, which hopefully Michael will link to in the chat if he's alive. Is he listening to me? And let's talk about the question first of all. So the question is here. So research shows that business meetings, discussions and training are happening online nowadays. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? Okay, so this is the question. It's asking us what we think, you know, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? So what we're going to do is look at Naz's answer by these 4 categories, and I will tell you what I think is good, I will tell you what could be improved, and I will give my estimated band score for each of them. Okay. Aha, we can see Michael, he's appeared there. Hello, Michael. Okay, so let's get on to it. So first of all, task response, okay? So you can see my brief comments on the top, but let's actually go through the essay and talk about all the things, okay? So let's just look at the question again, because this is very important for task response. So research shows that business meetings, discussions and training are happening online nowadays. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? So what we need to do really in the introduction is to introduce the main idea. Here, the main idea is that businesses are using some form of online platform, okay? And we have to give a thesis of whether or not we think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Okay, so let's see what Naz wrote, and we'll go through this looking at it from task response. How well did he answer the question? Okay, and then we'll look at the other 3 criteria in a moment. So let me read this to you. Many investigations have proven that most companies to use online mode for business, gathering meetings, discussions and training for their employees. I personally reckon that the benefits outweigh the drawbacks, and this essay tends to highlight more pros than cons. Okay, so in his first sentence, he's introduced the idea that it's about online platforms for business. I think that's great. He's done a good job there. We'll talk about the actual wording a little bit later. And we can see in his second sentence, clearly he's got a thesis. He's said exactly what it is. I personally reckon that the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. And then he goes on to say that he's going to talk about more pros than cons. This is a good thesis, but the question is, does he support it throughout the essay? That's what we're looking at in this part, okay? So if we go through it, I'm not going to read everything word for word. I'm just going to pick out the important things for this part of the grading. So you can read this. There's a document it's been linked to in the description. It's in the live chat. You can read this as we go if you want. And if you're watching this in the playback, you can also access the document. So you notice I've got different colors here. What I'm looking for is, does the information in the essay support the thesis? This is important for his task response, okay? So we can see he's got a topic sentence here, which is fine, but we get on to the second sentence here. Firstly, the online meetings offer the flexible working hour to employees. So this is his first argument, and this is supporting the idea that it's a benefit. Flexible working hours is a benefit. He goes on to say the employees have to rush towards the offices for attending the face-to-face physical conference and meeting. However, they can participate in business meetings and talks through online applications by sitting at the comfort place such as home. Okay, so again, the wording we'll talk about a little bit later on, but it's the fact that he's made his point. Flexible hours is a good thing because of this technology, and he's backed it up with explaining that as an example. He then goes on to say, therefore it will dramatically reduce the unnecessary stress and make them productive employees. Again, this is really linking to the idea that it's a benefit. So everything so far is working well. Then we go on to the second point where, to be honest, he lost me a little bit with the wording. But the good thing is at the end here, he says the unnecessary investments or funding can be reduced by organising the visual meetings in which the employees can easily interact or discuss on certain topics at their own home. So he's bringing it back to the main argument that this is a benefit. So it's kind of linking in here. If we move to the second paragraph in the body, the first point he makes, he talks about choosing online platform for communicating and company dealing also improve the air quality because most of people will work from home and use less vehicles for traveling to office. So again, we'll look at the wording in the vocabulary and grammar part of this analysis, but this is a benefit. He's saying that it's good for the environment. And later on in that body paragraph, he talks about the current pandemic and how being able to use this platform or these services means that people can do social distancing, basically. That's what he's saying in so many words in this part here. So far in the body paragraph 1 and the body paragraph 2, he's focused on the benefits, which is really matching up to his thesis. But there's a but coming. Let's look at the conclusion here. So to recapitulate, very fancy way of saying in conclusion, nice. So visual mode for meetings have tremendous of advantage. So he's talking about the fact that this technology has a lot of advantages. This is linking back to his original opinion, which is absolutely perfect. But this is where the problem comes, okay? However, the company should take precautions and use sophisticated technology while using online platforms for payment because many spams and frauds may occur. It's his conclusion. This is new information. At no point during the rest of the essay did Naz talk about anything here. Okay, it may be a recommendation, but for most of the essays we write in IELTS, we should not give new information in the conclusion. There's one exception, which is a discussion essay, where you must conclude with your opinion where you haven't given it in the body. So this is an error. This shouldn't have happened. And another big mistake is in his thesis, he says that he will highlight more pros and cons, and the entire body just talks about pros. So this weakens the essay because he didn't do what he said he would do in his thesis. Okay, so if we removed this part, we'll highlight more pros than cons. If we just got rid of than cons, it would improve it. So I think, so I said generally the argument is well laid out. I think it is, and well supported throughout. It clearly is linked. That's good. The thesis refers to drawbacks which aren't addressed and only in passing the conclusion. So I think task response, I was putting him in a range of 6 to 7. I thought this was quite strong, but just because of the things I've mentioned, it probably would push him closer to the 6. I don't think he would be very close to a 7 because the thesis doesn't match the entire body, and this extra information is unnecessary. So later on, I will be showing you a model answer where I've taken everything that Naz said in the essay and I've just written it at a slightly higher level. So we'll look at that later on, so stick around for that. Okay, so we're on to the next part, coherence and cohesion, which is all to do with linking ideas together and also how easy it is to follow as the reader. These are the main ideas we're looking at. There's other things that we can find. Remember, you can access this document which tells you exactly what you have to do to get the score that you want in task 1 and task 2 in IELTS. This is for task 2. We're looking at this section here, coherence and cohesion. Okay, so let's go through that. So I've just gone through and highlighted some of the good stuff and perhaps some things that could be improved. So you notice that words like to begin with, therefore, secondly, furthermore. As a result, apart from this, to illustrate, to recapitulate. I'm very proud of Naz for that one. So these are good linking words, connectives, discourse markers, these kind of words we need to use. And the thing is, for what I can see, Naz didn't repeat any of them. So that's a really good sign. That's a good thing to do. It makes it easy for the reader to follow along. And some other good things, I like how this is to do with what's called referencing. Okay, so I'll give you an example of good referencing and bad referencing here. If we look at this sentence here that says, firstly, the online meetings offers the flexible working hours to employees. Okay, so we're talking about employees. What I mean by this, we'll talk about that later. The employees have to rush towards the offices. So here he said employees, the employees. So it's okay, but we could improve it by referring to the employees using a different word, which is what Naz actually did in the next sentence here. However, they can participate in business meetings. They is referring to the employees. So this is a good example of referencing. And this is what you need to do to get a better score in coherence and cohesion. So he does a good job later on. And again, it talks about, therefore, it will dramatically reduce the prices. It will, he's referring back to the technology of using online meetings and things like that. Good referencing. And in the last sentence here, he talks about by organising the visual meetings in which the employees can easily interact or discuss on certain topics at their own home. Their own home, it means the employee's own home. So again, some referencing. He is showing that he's doing that. And the only kind of issue in body paragraph 1 that I have is here where it says, secondly. I can see. Naz, you're in the chat. So if you have any questions about this as we go along, don't hesitate to ask. So here, what you've done is you said secondly, as we all know that the land prices are touching the sky. Okay, so I am an English teacher. I know what you're trying to say here. I understand it, but the examiner is not an English teacher. The examiner is pretending to be an ordinary person, ordinary native speaker, and they are incredibly stupid. They cannot understand things unless you clearly say it to them or use the correct phrase. So here you mean that, you know, the land prices are skyrocketing, something like this. That's the expression. They are increasing in price at a very fast rate. So this just takes away from understanding. It's not very clear. Here we've got some good examples of connectives all through, and then I've highlighted this, so let's read it. It is really dangerous to attend and interact people on physical meetings, so online platform is the effective way to attend national or international business conference calls. So it's just a little bit unclear for me. So I highlighted that in red because it doesn't really explain exactly what you're trying to say. Maybe online platforms are an effective way of reducing this, perhaps. It just wasn't very clear. So in terms of coherence and cohesion, I think you did a pretty good job. It was fairly clear throughout. You connected each part quite well, and you laid out an easy path for a native to follow. So I think you would be quite close to a 6 here. Yeah, more a 6 than a 5. Okay, so moving on. So looking at the chat, is everyone still happy? Any questions? anything that you don't understand. If I'm moving too fast, let me know. If I'm moving too slowly, also let me know. If you want to talk to Michael, he is there in the chat, ready to go. Okay, so let's talk about lexical resource. So this is use of vocabulary. And to be honest, vocabulary and grammar are the most difficult thing for most students. So let's go through and talk about that. Okay, so we've got things in green which are really good, things in red that need to be improved. So let's go through it bit by bit. Okay, so the introduction. Many investigations have proven that most companies to use online mode for business gathering meeting discussions. It's difficult to say. It's difficult to say. So I see a question in the chat. I will get to you in a minute. So this is expression for business gathering meeting discussions. I think I just might say for business meetings. Yeah, it's a little bit too wordy there. Okay, so there's a question from Karan. Can we write what I mean to say in writing like he uses? No, and I will, if you stick around, I'm going to explain that in the next section in grammar, because it's an important point. So that's an excellent question. I will jump to that in a moment. In fact, let's talk about it now, just in case something happens. Basically, let's imagine it. Now, Naz, I'm going to be a little bit funny here, but remember this comes from a place of love. What type of people ask themselves questions and then answer the question? Crazy people. Now, Naz, you're not a crazy person. So in your writing, don't ask yourself questions and then answer them. What we could do is, what I mean by this is, the employees have to rush. This is the phrase you want. What I mean by this is. So don't ask yourself questions. There is something called a rhetorical question where the speaker isn't expecting an answer. There's no answer really, but they're quite hard to use correctly. So for most of you, you don't ask questions in your writing. It's just a rule to follow, and it will help you avoid making mistakes. Okay? So hopefully that answers your question, Karen. And Naz, don't worry. You know, we're all learning, and if you learn not to do that next time, you'll improve the score overall. Okay. So let's move on to the thesis. So I personally reckon that grammatically this is fine, but it's not the right register. So register means choosing either formal or informal language, and I reckon it's quite informal. It's something you would say to a friend maybe down the pub. You know, I reckon it's going to be a good football match this Sunday. I wouldn't use reckon like this in a IELTS paper. Use it in your speaking, excellent, but don't use it in your writing. I believe this would be better. Yeah, and then I just highlighted this phrase, this essay tends to highlight. Again, grammatically, it's fine. I just wouldn't say it like this. I would just be direct. This essay will highlight. Say it like that. Okay, so just going through, you can have a look at all these phrases, but they're just not quite how I would say it. So I'll go through it fairly quickly. Face-to-face physical conferences, in-person conferences, in-person meetings, face-to-face meetings. These kind of expressions would be better. You can have a look at my model answer later to see how I might say this sort of thing. We spoke about this phrase, prices are touching the sky. Prices are skyrocketing. Prices are skyrocketing. And I think Michael sounds a bit bored, I'm sure he can write down some of these things as we go along, okay, in the chat. So the next phrase, chunk of money. This is a great collocation, two words that naturally go together, but it's just a spelling mistake. Chunk. You don't need the second C. Now this is the magic of having the spell check, but obviously you don't have this in the exam. So if you find that you're having spelling mistakes, you're making mistakes, put that on a list and learn how to spell that word. We all have words that we struggle to write, and we need to learn them as we go. The next phrase here, interior and outer look of company such as accessories and furniture. You used interior, I might use exterior instead of outer look. Exterior of a building, for example. It's just that it's really just a collocation. Those words sort of sound better together. What do we have here? So I liked the use of gases which usually emit gases. This is a great collocation. Viruses, it should be in the plural here. Save human life, it's just a spelling mistake. And rampant COVID-19. I really like this phrase, rampant disease. This is a good collocation. Physical, it's just a spelling mistake. Take precautions, that's a great collocation. So you've got lots of really good phrases throughout. I didn't highlight them all because there's so many. And the only other thing in your conclusion is many spams and frauds. Spam and fraud are uncountable. We don't put them into the plural. Okay, so looking at this, so I said the student uses some examples of high-level vocabulary and good collocations. At times, the use of words or phrases makes it hard to follow the argument, and there are several examples of spelling mistakes. So this would unfortunately put you down to about a 5. I don't think it's as low as a 4. I think you would be much closer to a 5 here, Naz. Okay. So let's go through and look at the next part. Okay. So we're going to be talking about grammar. How is everyone doing in the chat? If you have any questions at all, Michael's there. He can answer you. If you have any questions for me, we can talk about that. And it looks like we have a few people in the chat, so we can actually talk about anything you want to do with IELTS in a moment. We'll just go and finish this correction and we'll see what we want to talk about. Okay, so we're talking about grammar here. Again, it's just a little bit tricky grammar. It's one of the things that we have to learn. It takes a little bit longer than other parts of writing. So, yeah, the introduction. Many investigations have proven that companies use. We just need to conjugate the verb, companies use. Here in the body 1, we've got a good use of the present perfect, good grammar, but you just need to remember has significantly improved. We need it to be the past participle. It's the third part of the verb. For example, go, went, gone. Gone is the third part, the past participle. We use that for the present perfect. Here we talk about the overall level of business, and there are tremendous merits, I would say. You might even say considerable merits, or I don't know, Michael, can you think of a better collocations for that? Tremendous merits is not quite the one I would say. Numerous merits, perhaps. I'm sure Michael will write a couple of good collocations that you can read in the chat about merits. So moving on. Firstly, the online meetings offers. Now here, the online meetings, it's the same as they. So they offer. So this is just a conjugation error. So we spoke about this question here, what I mean by it. And I explained we don't want to ask ourselves questions in the writing. Try to avoid this. What we should say here is, what I mean by this is the employees have to rush. So in green, some really good grammatical structures. They can participate in business meetings and talks through online applications by sitting. This is excellent. This is really high level. And just at the end, we just want to change it by sitting in a comfortable place, such as their home. So sitting in a comfortable place, such as their home. You almost nailed that. That would have been a perfect high-level sentence. So really well done for that, Naz. So therefore, it will dramatically reduce. Great phrase there. Really like that. Now, there's a bit of an issue with this sentence. So let me read it to you, okay? So it says, as the chunk of money spent, so it should be spent on interior and exterior, the exterior look of the company, such as accessories and furniture, as well as on electricity bills, full stop. We're missing. A native speaker would say, as what? We're missing the second part of that sentence. So as this is, all this money is spent on all these things, the budget is tight. Companies don't have a lot of money. They want to make savings. This is kind of the thing. And it's almost like Naz tried to do that in the next thing. While the unnecessary investment or funding can be reduced by organising the visual meetings in which the employees can easily interact or discuss on. So here we need to say something about a budget and then mention while these unnecessary investments could be solved by visual meetings. So it's very close, but you're missing a little bit of information. And here we would say, instead of discuss on certain topics, just discuss certain topics. Okay, so yeah, so don't forget, so Naz, he joined us a couple of days ago, last week, and we were excuse me, we were correcting some essays, and he wanted us to correct one of his essays. So what he did was send us an email to the email address in the chat now, corrections@IELTSGrind.com, and we received this over the weekend and we're doing it right now. So if you want us to correct any of your writing, task 1, task 2, we can do that. If you feel brave and you want to record yourself answering any questions, we will listen to that and give you some feedback about your speaking as well. So you're very welcome to send us any of your writing or speaking examples and we'll give you some feedback. So looking at the second paragraph for grammar and grammatical accuracy. So here it says, furthermore, choosing online platform for communicating and company dealing also improve. So here we should say choosing online platforms, plural, and company dealings, perhaps, company business, also improves. It improves because all of this, company, all of this, we could replace it with this. It also improves. Okay, so it's just basic sentence structure. This information can be replaced by a pronoun. We don't have to. What you've done there is fine, but remember it represents the word it. So this we need to change to improves. Okay. So as the result, the result. Here we want one or the other. As a result. Okay. So this sentence was really good grammatically. Apart from this, it also can help and save human lives possibly from widespread viruses. So the structure was good, it's just you need to change some of the words. Okay, and if we look at the next thing, to attend and interact people, I might not say this, so it is really dangerous to attend people. It's not a good collocation. I might say instead to interact and talk to people, or interact and be around people. I think this might be closer to what you want to say. Okay. So the next thing, so online platform is the effective. Here I might say, so online platforms are the most effective way. So online platforms are the most effective way to attend national and international business conference calls. Okay. So just moving on to the last part here. So to recapitulate, visual mode for meetings have tremendous advantages. Have tremendous advantages. This would be a great phrase. It's just grammatically we don't need of. However, the company, just say companies in general, companies should take precautions. And that last part, grammatically, I thought was really good. Yeah. So I think here, I said, for the most part, the grammatical structures used are used correctly. I think grammatically they're fine. However, there are many structural errors which can cause misunderstanding. The most serious errors are with the use of articles, and the, plurals, s's, and sentence structures. Okay. So I will jump to, there's a few questions, we'll jump there in a second. But yes, so for grammatical range and accuracy, I think you're up close to a 5. Definitely not as low as a 4, but you're missing a few of the things to do with a 6. And as I said, come to this document and you can see for 6 what you need to do, and for 5, if you do this, that's why you're getting a 5. So have a look at these things. If you ever have any questions, you can leave a comment on any of our videos anywhere. Oh, I'm missing, there we go. Jumping back to this. Okay, so let's excuse me, let's look at some of these questions. So okay, so if we're using tremendous more than once, yes, I think if you overuse words, it's going to affect your score, but using the same word twice, it's not automatically going to reduce it, because to be honest, tremendous is not an everyday word. It's not really one that people use all the time. I would say it's a little bit higher level than most students sort of use. So it's a good word to use if you're going to use it more than once. So don't feel afraid that using the same word twice is going to automatically reduce your score. Of course, it would be great if you had a synonym, but sometimes we just can't think of it, you know, so don't worry too much. There's many different things that add to your score. Using the same word twice isn't going to automatically reduce it. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone through, I'm going to just put this onto one page. I've gone through and sorry Naz, I've stolen all of your ideas. I have, because it's the best way to learn. So I've stolen all of your ideas and I've just reworded them a little bit, and I've actually gone and done what you wanted to do in your thesis. So what you wanted to do was to say there are more advantages, but there are also some disadvantages. Now personally, if I was writing this myself, I would go 100%, my opinion being it's all about the benefits, or 100% about all the drawbacks, just because it's much easier to write and I can still get a high score if I go 100% one way or 100% the other way. But Naz, you made it difficult for me, but I've done it for you anyway. Okay, so Let's read through what I wrote, and if you spot any mistakes, you can let me know. Excuse me. Okay, I've got a bit of a sore throat, but I will power through. Okay, so let's remind ourselves of the question. Okay, research shows that business meetings, discussions, and training are happening online nowadays. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? So, with the advent of sophisticated video conference software, many industries have started to employ it in all aspects of their day-to-day business, according to recent studies. I personally would argue that this has many more benefits than drawbacks for the user of these advancements, although some hazards do persist. Now, so a couple of things here. So this part in orange, according to recent studies. So I added this. I added this because this is what NAS did, okay? But I don't think you need to rephrase the actual question word for word. As long as you get the main idea. The main idea here is businesses are using this type of technology. We don't really need to say it's from a research, from a study. But I did include that just to show if I was following exactly what NAS did, that's how I would say it. And I've got a little bit of referencing already these advancements, referring to sophisticated video conference. Okay, so I've got a bit of a color code system which I will explain. Let's read through it. So firstly, one must look no further than the effect e-learning and communication platforms have had on an average employee's working day. This is my topic sentence, okay? I'm introducing that the main idea that I'm going to discuss now is the effect on the employee's working day, okay? Gone are the days where it was essential to be present in the office, as now workers are able to participate in many different working events from the comfort of their own home. So this is backing up the idea that it is affecting the working day, and it's going back to my thesis that it's a benefit. Okay? However, this has led to longer working hours for some and an expectation to be available at the drop of a hat. So at a drop of a hat means immediately. So I've got idiomatic language, an idiom in there. Now, strictly speaking, for a very academic paper, we don't want to use idioms, but for the IELTS at this level, it's okay. And the reason it's in purple is because it's referring to the hazards. So I have mentioned some drawbacks. So I am fulfilling my thesis. Nevertheless, this is a small price to pay for the reduced stress of having to be in the office on time. Furthermore, virtual communication and training means that many organizations can vastly reduce their budget for well-furnished and large offices which have immense curb appeal. So all of this is the same ideas that NAS had. I've just arranged it slightly differently. But you can see that I've got this part talking about benefits. This part, I've mentioned some drawbacks. But this part, again, talking about the benefits. This is what my thesis was saying. There are more benefits than the drawbacks. So moving on to the second paragraph, okay? So, not only have there been improvements in the working conditions of some staff members, the environment is benefiting too. Okay, so it's my second topic sentence. Now we're going to be talking about the benefits for the environment. With the general eradication of the traditional rat race and rush hour to reach the office, toxic fossil fuel emissions are on the decline. So this is the point that Naz was making about commuting, and the idea that this reduces basically greenhouse gases. So this is a benefit, going back to my thesis. Although I will admit that computer use does contribute to climate change. The need to commute at least every day has been significantly reduced by this new working culture, which is a greater threat to our world. So what I've tried to do here is, it's almost like I'm arguing with someone. And what I'm doing is saying, yes, you have a good point, but you're wrong because of this. And it's introducing a drawback to the use of these platforms, okay? The fact that using these platforms does also contribute to climate change, but it's less serious than commuting. This is the point I've made here, okay? But I go on to talk about it a little bit more. In addition to the healing force this trend has on the local ecosystem, it can also benefit mankind in times of crisis. So I'm introducing a second point, but I'm being a little bit vague because I want to write more. I don't want to give all of the information and have basically run out of things to say. So I explain. By this I mean the recent ravages of the global pandemic could have been significantly more grievous if this technology hadn't been developed when it was. A clear benefit of businesses, business adapting to this new form of working. Yeah, possibly I should say businesses, but I think general business, I think that's fine. Anyway, so what I've done here, two things. I've not only linked it back to the main thesis, talking about benefits, I've got a very high level structure here. The global pandemic could have been significantly more grievous if this technology hadn't been developed when it was. Now, this is a very high level structure, and I know that I'm a little bit ahead of you guys because there's a delay, but can anyone guess what is this structure? Does anyone know the grammatical term for what I've done here? It's kind of adapted by something, yeah. I'm actually missing a word, but it's implied. So I will explain it in case someone jumps in. So this is almost a conditional. I'm actually missing if or when. But what I'm doing is speculating about how things could be different. And I'm combining some pretty high level grammar here. And I did this on purpose because, I did this on purpose because I wanted to show the examiner that I did know some high level grammar, and I just tried. I didn't know if I was going to get it right, but I gave it a go because you always get credit for trying. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the conclusion. In conclusion, now Naz, you had a much higher level word. What was it again? To recapitulate. But in conclusion's fine. I use it all the time for my conclusions. It's fine. In conclusion, it is clear that moving towards a more virtual form of working can greatly improve the flexibility of workers' lives. But the tendency to be available for more than our contracted hours should be a concern for all of us. Nevertheless, this may be a small price to pay for the ability to earn a wage in the face of economic and health risks. Okay, so this is my conclusion. What I need to do here is to restate what I think, my opinion. So I've restated it. It's clear that this is a benefit, flexibility of workers' lives. But I also said that there are some drawbacks. The drawback is we have to work longer hours to be available. And then I brought it back to another kind of benefit, the fact that if you compromise, even though we have to work longer hours, it's a good thing because of economic risks, losing your job perhaps, and health risks, the pandemic. So this is how I would rewrite what Naz wrote here. So all the same ideas that he wrote, I've just put into this model answer. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this correction. So if anyone has any questions about this essay or about anything to do with IELTS, now is your time to leave a question. And don't forget, you can find out exactly what you need to write by going to a document like this, okay? And you can find that if you go to any of the IELTS Grind, there we are, the IELTS Grind YouTube channel. We always have in the description the band score descriptors for task 1, task 2, and for speaking. And it just tells you exactly what you need to do to get the score that you want. So if you want to get a band score 6 or a 7 for writing, you have to do all of these things in the 4 different marking criteria. It's that simple. Now the tricky thing is that you need to understand what it is. But luckily, Michael and myself, we are pretty well versed in this. We've been teaching IELTS for a long time. So if you ever have questions about what this means, just leave us a comment on any video and we'll get back to you. If, like Naz, you would like us to correct one of your essays online for free, you can send an email, which is corrections@theieltsgrind.com. So it's in the description and it's also in the chat right now. So you can find in the description corrections@theieltsgrind.com there. Okay, so do we have any questions? Anything popping up? Oh yes, Michael's reminded me. We also have a Discord channel. Let me jump into that very quickly. So, yes, we are trying to build up our Discord channel. Discord is a way that you can basically come and talk to us, ask questions, and you can also find people to speak to. If we have lots of people joining, then we will be able to practice speaking together. Okay, so you got a question. So how long can we spend writing task 1 or task 2 for corrections? So if you mean to say how long do we have to write it in the exam, you've got 1 hour in the exam, so you should dedicate about 20 minutes to task 1, about 40 minutes to task 2. But don't forget, in that you need to give yourself time to plan. So plan what you want to write and to go through and proofread, because if we go back to a few things, like I think if Naz had spent 2 to 3 minutes proofreading, I think you would probably have caught little errors like, for example, as a the. You might have caught that. If you read it to yourself aloud, physical, I think you might have caught those kind of mistakes if you proofread it, yeah? So if that's your question, that's how long you have in the exam. And if you want to send us, I think I can see your question actually. If you want to send us your corrections, send it anytime and we will just correct it and put it into the next available live stream. We're actually going live every single night, Monday to Friday, for the foreseeable future. We're going Monday to Friday at the same time, 7 o'clock here in Taipei, which I think is about 5:30 in India, I think that's the time difference. And yeah, so if you want to send any more, send us another one. We're very happy to look at it for you. Okay, so I think that's it. So what we will do is we'll see you tomorrow. So each day it will either be me or Michael. We swap over. I think tomorrow it's going to be me again, and we will be looking at a slightly different part of the IELTS. So tune in tomorrow and we will see you there. Thanks very much for watching, and I will try and end this. Bye bye.